My name is Julia Wilkinson Manley, and I am the Artistic Director of CCD. And I want to thank everybody in the audience for joining us today. And I want to thank our amazing panelists who are joining us tonight. This is going to be a really great talk. Um, we're here to talk about summer intensives, and I know that that's really important to young, hungry dancers. The next person that I'll introduce you to is Jan Rodriguez. And she'll talk a little bit about herself, but she really brought it to our attention that this is something that would be really valuable to our families right now. And so, Jan, will you introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Sure. I'm Jan Rodriguez, and Lauren Rodriguez is my daughter. She's been a dancer at CCD for, I think this is her 11th year. I am co-chair of the new Bar Association.
Oh, all of a sudden can't hear you, Jan. That's weird. No. No. Weird. Well, how about I talk about you and we work on that, okay? So Jan is the chair of the New Bar Association, which is a parent volunteer group. I'm sure Jan would want to tell you that she's really interested in building community within our families and also building opportunities for our students to become enriched in the arts and through the arts, and so finding ways that we can connect together through other art forms, and also building opportunities for our families to connect through dance education. So Jan, you want to try again? Let's see if test. No, that is so weird. Well, so we'll have our dancers, our panelists introduce themselves. Let's start with Michael.
Hey, everyone. I'm pretty sure most everyone knows me, but for those of you who might be new or don't know me, my name is Michael Hinton. I grew up dancing with CCD from the age of like 8 years old. Spent the majority of my time training there, and then the last few years of my training at the School of American Ballet. I currently dance with Wonderbound in Denver, which has been awesome. And as far as summer intensives that I haven't been necessarily all over. I primarily stayed with like Boston Ballet, Pacific Northwest Ballet, and then the School of American Ballet, and also Colorado Conservatory of Dance's summer intensive many times.
Great. Anna.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anna. I grew up in Los Angeles, California. I primarily trained at Westside Ballet, a little bit at Los Angeles Ballet, and then Colburn Dance Academy. I then went to Indiana University to train as well with Violette Verdi, Carla Corbis, and Kira Nichols. I currently dance with City Ballet of San Diego. I've been a company member for it's my 3rd season. I absolutely love it out here. And summer intensive wise, I primarily did Boston Ballet as well, CPYB, Chautauqua, and the Joffrey Contemporary Ballet intensive.
Awesome. Thank you. And Anna is the daughter of our interim executive director, Leslie. And so we're so excited to have you here. Rachel, there's Leslie. Great.
My name's Rachel. I'm a parent, so I'm one of the 2 parent perspective people. My daughter is Kaila, that's down there below. And then her younger brother is Parker. They both grew up dancing at CCD from age 4 all the way through all the levels. I'll let Kaila talk about her background and what she's been through. But for Parker, I think his first summer intensive when he was 14, he went to Orlando Ballet, Houston Ballet, San Francisco Ballet, and then he went to Royal Ballet School in Covent Garden in London. So those are his where he went to. So, and then was I supposed to say anything else? I don't remember.
Nope, you did great. Well done. Nicholas.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nicholas. I grew up at CCD, and I'm currently dancing at Eugene Ballet, but I trained at Houston Ballet after CCD, and the summer intensive I've gone to was Houston Ballet and Washington Ballet. Am I missing anything else? Is that
No,
everything?
I don't think so. I think you did great too.
Awesome.
Jackson.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jackson. I was a student at CCD for a few years, I think 2012 to 2016. And after 2016, I moved to Houston to train at Houston Ballet Academy. And now I'm the dancer in the company at Houston Ballet. And I've only been to Houston Ballet Summer Intensive and CCD.
Yes. Janine.
Hi everyone. I'm Janine Capoletti, and I'm really excited to see Kai and Sarah and Nick and Jackson. They just grew up so well. You guys are beautiful. All right, so my daughter is Caroline Capoletti. She started dancing at CCD when she was 3 and almost all the way till she was 19, 18 and a half. So 15 plus years. Caroline did 5 summer intensives. So I'm the other parent perspective, and she went to her first one at 13. So I'm definitely a good perspective on, you know, the early years for that. She went to what I call baby Boston. So little Boston out in the suburbs, which is a wonderful starter program. And then Joffrey 2 years in a row, Boston Ballet for the 4th one, and Ailey for the 5th one. So yeah.
Awesome. And Kaila?
Hi, I'm Kaila. I am currently a company dancer with the Oklahoma City Ballet, but I grew up dancing at CCD from about age 4 till graduation. And the intensives I've gone to are Joffrey Ballet in Chicago, Houston Ballet, American Ballet Theater, Pittsburgh Ballet Theater, Ballet Met, Orlando Ballet, and Oklahoma City Ballet. So I've been around.
That's why you're here. Sarah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sara Jansen. I grew up at CCD as well. And then I moved to New York and I went to Marymount Manhattan College. That's where I got my BFA. I currently dance for Dances Petrelli and KMDM. They're affiliate companies in New York. And I do product development for Gaynor Minden. I have gone to many summer intensives as well. Fun fact, Kaila and I actually roomed together 10 years ago at Joffrey, Chicago. I've gone to Kansas City Ballet, Martha Graham, SFCD, New York Dance Project, the Steps residency, and then I did a residency with Twyla Tharp. But I also went away, I think when I was 13 for the first time too. So I did a little baby program as well.
Mm-hmm. And say what SFCD stands for.
Oh, San
Francisco
Conservatory. Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, but San Francisco Conservatory of Dance. So a much more contemporary program.
Great. Well, this is fun. I wish Jan could talk. I know, I don't know what's happening. But we'll figure it out. We'll keep working on it. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask a series of questions that we've pre-prepared. And I'm going to, so panelists, just be ready to answer, and I'll see your hands. We'll go through those questions, and then audience out there, if you have additional questions, you can chat us the questions, and then you could also go to the Q&A, and so we'll be watching both of those ways to do questions. But then at the end, so in about an hour, what we'll do is let our panelists go to bed, say goodbye, and then Jan and I will stay on and continue the discussion, just talking more logistics CCD wise. So just know that this first part is really going to be geared towards our wonderful panelists and their wealth of knowledge, and then we'll narrow in and talk more about CCD related things like photo shoots and all of that kind of stuff. So we're going to start off with what the purpose of a summer intensive is. Who can speak to that? Remember, if you don't raise your hand fast enough, then I'm just going to call on you like this. Nick, what's the purpose of a summer intensive?
I would say the three that I kind of thought up of when I first got these questions was one, to keep dancing and training during the summer. Two, to experience different teachers, different like classmates, different academies. And third, very important for looking for a job in the world of dance, is to build up that resume.
Yeah, I agree with all of those. Michael, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I mean, a big purpose of summer intensives is to have fun as well, which I know is not like the golden answer, I think. But you get to be on your own for the first time. You get to kind of understand what it's like dancing for a very long period throughout the day. So, I mean, I think as a professional, I can look back at my time at summer intensives and kind of understand that, yes, it was very aggressive dance training, depending on where you go, and it was very rigorous and there were long hours, but that's my life now. So the entire that entire aspect of summer intensives really kind of geared me toward what to expect my life to be when I did become a professional.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Janine, from a parent's perspective, what did you find the purpose to be for Caroline?
I mean, some of what Nick said, but I from a parent perspective, I think it, really it prepares your child to do a lot of things, to be independent, to learn a lot of new life skills, right? So it's not just about ballet. And certainly if we have people that are on this, that are thinking about their younger dancers, I think it's important to look for a program that provides more supervision, that offers some different things for friendship activities, those kind of things. I looked at the 13-year-old Baby Boston experience as more of a camp, a dance camp, and not a summer intensive, versus 3 years later when she went to Big Boston in the city. And that's something completely different. That's a career builder. They're looking at you to see if you're going to be a professional eventually. So from a parent perspective, I loved all the independence that she gained from it and all the life experience, the practical life experience that she gained from it. That was a big bonus to just dancing and stretching, your wings as a dancer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember I think a lot of you guys like learned to do laundry so that you could go away, right? Learned to make your own food so that you could go away. Yeah, that's a really great point. I mean, so we've already touched on this a little bit, but the value of doing a summer intensive. Anna, can you talk a little bit about a different perspective on that first question, what the value?
Totally. I think you can get a little bit closed-minded in, the little studio, however big or small it is that you dance in. I remember like my first intensive was Baby Boston as well. And it was so crazy being in a studio with people from not only all over the country, but all over the world. Like my roommate was from Singapore, which was the coolest thing ever. And it was cool to see like, okay, maybe I thought I was the best at my studio, but like look at the quality that all these other dancers, and I learned so much visually and being able to be in a room with different types of dancers, different style dancers. And also, I think another really cool thing is these people that you meet in the intensives, like people that I met in Baby Boston, I'm still friends with to this day. And it's so cool to see the different paths that everyone takes. Some of them are in New York City Ballet, some of them are in P&B, all these amazing companies, and then some of them are not even dancing at all, starting their own companies, doing their own thing. And it's just really awesome to, get out there, see what else is out there, get out of your comfort zone, learn how to live with a roommate, learn how to be a courteous roommate, laundry. It's just the best experience, and highly encourage anybody. I'd say 13, 14, it's so important, I think.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Jackson?
Yeah, I think I would definitely have to agree with almost everything everybody said, not almost everything. Sorry. Yeah, I found my time at summer intensives to be very valuable. I think because I wasn't doing school all day and dancing at night, the whole day was dedicated to dance. So I felt that I was able to like learn a lot and dictate like a lot more of my energy to dancing. And I also think that when you go to a summer intensive, you're kind of put in an environment with a bunch of other like-minded individuals. So it's a pretty motivating atmosphere, and it is a lot of fun too. So there's value in all that.
That's awesome. These are such great answers. Okay, so I love that you guys would probably, I don't know that Boston Ballet, if they were listening in, they'd be like, Baby Boston, but maybe they'd call it Baby Boston. That's all good. I think Michael went to Baby Boston too. So, yeah. So how do you pick the right program for you? And I want to ask Sara about this because you've been to such diverse programs. And so tell me about that journey.
Yep, most of the programs actually that I went to once I went to college and once I was like over 18 and I was doing most of the research myself were actually programs that came more to me. So if there were auditions at my college, I just went to every single audition because it was readily available. It was class on the weekend. It was fun to, get to take class with people that were in town traveling. So most all of my summer intensives, SFCD, things like that came from auditions that I went to and people reaching out saying, are you interested in coming to the program? So I think that allowed me to do much more than I would have reached out for otherwise. Like I would have never done the Graham intensive, not having done Graham before, but it was an amazing experience. I totally recommend doing an intensive outside of your normal technique because you learn so much and you're with dancers that you wouldn't really interact with otherwise. So I don't know if that really answered your question.
Yeah, no, I think that's really great perspective. And similarly, Kaila, you've been to a lot of very different programs. So talk about that journey.
Well, at least when it came to auditions, I would just see who was coming to either CCD or Colorado Ballet and sign up and see where it goes. A lot of the time I would judge the class and how I felt about the class of like, oh wow, I really did not enjoy that class. I'm probably not going to go there. Or whoever it was of like, wow, I really liked their way of explaining this, or this combination was really cool and different. Like, I think that's awesome. But I'd also go on their website and do a lot of research as to who their instructors were, what their backgrounds were, and what kind of classes they offered of like, oh, we're going to do a lot of rep, but we also do some conditioning classes, and just trying to get a little bit of everything in there. And I tried to prioritize what I was interested most and kind of go that route.
Yeah, that's really following your interest is really, really important because it also helps you to define yourself as a dancer and what you love to do to make art. One of the things that I usually talk about with our students is, you want one of two things in my director brain. Either you want to use the skills that you've been developing and really like focus on that and further develop those skills. So for instance, our syllabus at CCD is built on very English, French, Italian methodology. So you, in this one way of going, you want to focus on a school like Houston Ballet, for instance, where the training is very much in that same vein. The other way of going is to try, as Sara said, something completely different that's completely outside of your comfort zone, but something that you have interest in that you think you'll really care about. And that's, for instance, like Michael went to SAB, and that was his jam. That's what he was really pulled towards. And it became really important to him. So, but you want to go into that intentionally, I think. You don't want it to be random. You want to know what you're trying to do. And also, as a director, I have to say this, know what you're coming back to and have respect for the things that you're coming back to, because you don't want to all of a sudden come back with styles that don't match the school that you came from. You want to be able to speak all languages and be able to also do corps de ballet work at the school where you spend most of your time. So that's really important. Okay, will my dancer be behind if they do not go away to a summer intensive? Rachel, we haven't heard from you. Will you talk a little bit about that?
No, I don't think it's imperative. And I'll use Kaila as an example. So when a week before she turned 16, she had her first hip surgery. And then she had her second hip surgery 2 months later. And so that summer, she did not go anywhere. She stayed put. It was really, really hard. But she really, really, really focused on the things that she could control. Pilates, starting in, working her way up. And so her whole goal that whole year was to get accepted to where she was going to go that summer, which was ABT in New York. And so that was her goal. That's exactly what she did. Not only did she do that one, she also got accepted to the company experience at Pittsburgh Ballet Theater. And that was the very first year they ever did like a pre-professional sort of a coaching. It's kind of similar to our Compass coaching with Dominic, where she worked with Terrence Orr and some of the other company members. So she did 2 weeks there and went right then to New York. And so it's not imperative that they have to go somewhere by a certain age. It just really expands their knowledge, and it also expands just their circle, their influence of people that they know, both dancer wise and also company wise too. So it's really all in the families. And like Kaila reminded me earlier too, is that there's a lot of professional dancers out there that start later in life. I think Misty Copeland is one of them, that it's their road and their own path that they have to take. So.
Yeah. Does anybody else want to answer that question? Sara and Michael? Yeah, Sara.
Well, I think also there's sometimes this feeling that if you don't go away and you're seeing everyone else going away, that they're progressing more than you. But you have to remember that if you're staying, you can still go to a very extensive intensive at CCD. And so I know I didn't do the CCD intensive until I was 18. And that, I think that was my first year, other than when I was much, much younger. But I did it my last summer before moving to New York so that I could, have my life here for a little bit longer. And I remember thinking, these are teachers that we don't get during the year. Why did I never do this earlier? Why didn't I, plan my summer intensive so that I could do 3 weeks at least at CCD and then however many elsewhere? Because it's a great program. It's stuff you're not doing during the year. It definitely adds to your repertoire just as much as if you were going somewhere else, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And right. It is a really good program. And, I also think like for parents, it helps to put your resources where they're needed, like, you don't need to pay for housing elsewhere, like for an entire summer, that kind of thing. So it's really helpful. Michael, last thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, I not to plug for CCD summer intensive, but CCD has a phenomenal summer intensive.
Yeah, not plugging at all.
Yeah, right. So there's never anything wrong with staying at CCD for summer intensive. You're going to get an amazing experience, and everything Sarah said is absolutely true. I have definitely had a history of not doing summer intensives. I will go, I will do them, I get great experiences, but I also feel like it's equally as healthy to make sure that you are, I guess, separating yourself from the dance world in some extent. It can be really easy to go to these places, start comparing yourselves to these dancers that you're seeing, come back to CCD, start comparing yourself to these dancers, and just it can really get overwhelming in your head. So for me, some of the most beneficial summers for me was when I didn't dance. And I mean, I would still go and take class at CCD every once in a while. I wouldn't do their summer program, but by taking a step away from dance, it was able to help me clear my head, and it really helped me refocus my passion. And it really helped me understand why I dance, why I need to dance, and why it's so important to have it within my life. And
Yeah.
even as a professional, I still feel like I need to separate myself from time to time.
Totally. And some of our kids will go to like summer program as science summer programs, or go to speech and debate, or other things, because we're not only dancers, we are also people who like to develop ourselves in other ways. So I think it's important to explore those other avenues. That's a really great point. So how do I know if my child is ready, both mentally and skill-wise, to go away? Janine, can you talk about that, especially because Caroline started so young going away?
Yeah, she was just really, really independent anyway, and mature for her years. I don't think I would have sent her to a program at 13 and a half where she had to cook her own food and be in her own apartment. I felt great sending her to a program where they had a dorm and she was supervised all the time in the dorm and for activities and to and from the dance studio. There was a bus that was provided, a private bus. So very different than when she was in downtown Boston and there was zero supervision and you walked, however many blocks by yourself or hopefully with other dancers, back and forth to the studio all day. So I think, you really want to talk to your child about their motivation, about why they want to go away, like why that's important to them, both as their physical and intellectual, dance interests grow, why they feel that's important. Like someone mentioned earlier, or Sarah was saying this earlier, if your child's answer is, well, everyone else is going, that's not the right answer. They're ready to go when you know how much they really love and appreciate dance education and what their knowledge is about the dance world and about the programs, looking into the programs themselves and saying, this teacher teaches here and I admire her career, or I know that they have smaller classes here and I would love an opportunity to be in a smaller class. when they can verbalize all those things and they get all that, then I think they're maybe ready to go out and explore and experience that when they can tell you those things are important.
Awesome. Rachel, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with obviously with everything that Janine had to say too. Both of the kids, if I'm not mistaken, they went away when they were 14. Kaila had just turned 14 for her first summer, and then Parker, he actually turned 15, I believe, when he came back. And, you know, for both of them, it was, you know, how responsible are they in life? You know, because they both had to manage, you know, you have to set an alarm, you have to wake up, you know, in the morning and make sure that you have enough time to eat breakfast and, you know, all of those things. And just be mature enough to handle just the whole experience, because I know at the beginning it can be really, especially for the younger ones, it can be really overwhelming. You know, oftentimes you might have a placement class the first day, and then you're like all nervous and anxious about like what level you're placed in and so on. And yes, learning to do laundry was a very real thing. I knew every time it was laundry day by the text that I would get, especially from Parker, like, okay, I have this shirt, my orange shirt. Is it light or is it dark? You know, so I got lots of texts every time laundry came about, which was really funny. Color catchers work. I'm just saying, they're awesome. But you know, there was an awful lot of research that both of the kids did before they ever started the process of auditioning, but then also choosing which program they wanted to go to. You know, and they looked at a lot of different things and a lot of different reasons, I think, for the both of them. I think for Parker, it was very much centered around how many guys and what the guy program was and the partnering, things like that. It was, I just, you know, with the conversations that we had and the research that they both did, that's really kind of what determined how I knew that they were both ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are really great things to think about. So interesting because it's, I know all of these things, but as a director, like I think about it from the other direction, which I think is really interesting. What about preparing for an audition, for a live audition? What advice do you have for that? Anna, can you talk a little bit about what, like, advice for live audition?
It can be very nerve-wracking. And I think, you know, even if you're not planning on doing the intensive, I think it's so important to try to get as much audition experience as possible, because I mean, I'm 24 and like I still get nervous in auditions. It never really goes away, but I think instead of trying, I think the biggest thing for me is instead of comparing myself to the other girls in the room, you just have to be so confident in your own abilities. You just have to be confident. You just have to pretend no one else is in the room. You're just doing your thing, like it's a regular class with your teachers, and just take in as much as possible and have fun. If you can stop thinking about, you know, comparing yourself, I think is honestly the biggest thing, and just being confident in your own skill set. That's the biggest advice I could give.
Yes, that's awesome. Nick, what about you? How do you prepare for an audition?
I mean, I agree with what Anna says, where it's not about comparing yourself to the other people in the class, because the real reason why you're having that audition is so that the teacher there can determine if you would be if you would have a good experience with their summer intensive, and they're going to do their best to put you in the right level for that. So you're not there to try to impress anybody. You're not going there to have like a risk all lose all situation. It's not going to, you know, determine how your career will go. It's just you need to give your you need to give your best effort to show where your technique is at that point.
It's a learning experience. Yeah. My first audition, sorry, Jackson, I see you. I just want to tell, I think this is really important because like, don't be number one. My first audition, I was like, I'm number one. And I went and stood at the bar, and then I realized that it was left hand on the bar and there's no one for me to follow. And I'm 12 years old. And there's no way that I can remember the combination because I was also nervous. And so like, that didn't let me put my best foot forward because I couldn't see what was going on and there was no mirror. So, you know, be in the middle, wear simple clothing, wear one thing that makes you stand out, wear a red ribbon, wear you know, whatever you guys can't wear like a bow in their hair. But, you know, I mean, I guess you can. You know, stand out, but also look really classy and really prepared. You walk in, everybody's in the splits. We all know that dynamic stretching is more important than sitting around in the splits. Bing. So don't get intimidated by that, because it doesn't mean that they're better dancers. It actually means that they're probably going to get hurt. So, but don't judge, just do your own thing and go to the bar, learn the combination, do the combination, do your work. Jackson.
Yeah, I can't agree anymore with what everyone said, but I think on the more administrative side of things, because I know that I've in the past made a few little hiccups with this. When you go to an audition, many times they'll ask for like an arabesque photo, a headshot. Some of them will ask for a resume. So I think on top of all the stuff that's going to help you dance your best, I think it's important to keep in mind, like, give yourself ample time to get there and check in and make sure you're coming with the right stuff, make sure you're there on time, all that sort of stuff. Because a lot of times they will ask for photos of you just so that I think later on when they're kind of going through who they want to keep and stay, that photo is going to remind them of who you were. So just make sure, if they require that, to bring it.
Yeah, and they really will need that photo to be a high quality photo, and we'll talk about that a little bit, because that photo reflects, because they're seeing you for a millisecond. People are taking mad notes, and they might remember the person with the red bow, but they need something of high quality to like remind them that, oh yeah, oh, Michael is that kid with the curly hair with that gorgeous arabesque, right? So it's like, you're welcome. So like, right, I remember that. And so that is really important. Anybody else want to add anything in on that? Janine?
I want to add a couple of things. First, I want to say that if you've been dancing at CCD, you are beautifully prepared, because you have been auditioning for Nutcracker, you have been doing student company, your training is phenomenal already. So, know that. And I want to say, be prepared that in some auditions, they do cut during the audition. So be prepared for that, because that can be kind of a scary time, the first time you experience that and didn't know that was coming. Some companies do that. They just they cut at different points and you can be asked to leave, and that can feel intimidating and kind of weird. So just mentally prepare for that. Know too, that you probably did everything that you could and you were beautifully prepared, and they could be looking for something very specific. Sometimes they just are looking for something very specific, and so you shouldn't take that personally. That's really important. And if you're on the younger side, it may just be that you're still a little bit too young and a little bit too soon. And when you're on the older side, it can be harder to get in, because they're really trying to weed out and look for the dancers who are really ready to take those next steps when they're 17 and 18 years old. So
That's a really great point. Really great point, Sue. Any other answers to that? Because I think it's so important. Michael.
Yeah, I just want to talk about getting rejection letters because you will get them. I've gotten rejection letters, I've gotten amazing scholarships, and I've gotten rejection letters all in the same audition season. And it's sort of like, well, how come SAB likes me so much, but San Francisco Ballet won't even respond to my emails? So it's like, I would say for me, the best way to handle a rejection letter is to just say, well, I didn't want to dance there anyways. There's
Yeah.
other ways to handle it as well, but you're gonna a lot of times when you're auditioning for summer intensives, you're going to so many auditions, you're auditioning for so many places, you're gonna get accepted, you're gonna get rejected. And it every time you get a rejection letter, it's easier to get a rejection letter. So
Mhm.
it doesn't mean you're a bad dancer. It doesn't mean you screwed up the audition. It doesn't mean anything. Usually it just means that there was like 100 other people in the audition room with you, and the two people at the front of the room were going crazy trying to keep track of everybody, and maybe they didn't see you enough. Maybe there's there's an infinite amount of reasons why you would get a
Mhm.
rejection letter, but it's so important to never take that personally.
That's a really, really great point. Rachel?
Yeah, and it's funny what Michael just said too, because um excuse me. So you can kind of see by the auditions who they really, really like, who gets accepted, who doesn't get accepted. It kind of gives you a little bit of a glimpse of what their company also looks for too in their dancers. Because just the polar opposite of Michael, Parker, we drove to Salt Lake City through a blizzard. He did an SAB audition and did not get accepted at all. The very same year, he got accepted with a very nice scholarship from San Francisco Ballet. And so it doesn't prove your worth by any of that. You're still amazing dancer. It's just not what they are looking for, what they feel is important in a dancer. And both Michael and Parker are very different dancers, different heights, all that, but it doesn't make them one greater of a dancer than the other. Oftentimes it just doesn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just like, you have two spots open and you just have to kind of go any, mini, miny, mo, which is nothing that you can control, right? Yeah, Anna, please. And then I see Kaila.
That's also just such a good life lesson, being able to not take the rejection so personally. That's going to help you in life, whether it's applying for colleges, applying for jobs that are ballet related or non-ballet related. Being able to fuel, I wouldn't call it negativity, but rejection, and trying to turn it into a positive just for life in general. Adversity.
Adversity. I love it. It's great. And then Kaila.
Kind of just bouncing off of what everybody else is saying. I think what always helped me with any rejections or waitlist or any negative situations is just sitting back and remembering that ballet is an art form and not everybody likes the same form of art. And some people might just love the Vaganova training, and I can't do that. Some people are like, wow, I don't like any of that, but I really love your dancing that's more contemporary or balanchine or whatever. Like, not everyone likes the same kind of art, and ballet is an art form. So it's just what the person at the front of the room is looking for. It's not anything against you.
It's like dating, right? Like you don't want to date everyone. You want to date the person that you like, right? So, you're not gonna yeah, I'm gonna stop that analogy, but yeah. So what about for dancers, young dancers who don't necessarily see themselves going into a professional career, or they're not sure? what kind of value do you see for them in going to a summer intensive? Rachel.
I think one of the really amazing things is being able to meet people from different countries, regardless of where you go. Like, both Parker and Kaila, there's people from Japan, Italy, oh my goodness, I could probably go on and on, all different countries. People from Australia. They have both made friendships from all over the world. And it's not just centered with your own little group of people that you hang out with and socialize with, at your home studio, CCD or otherwise. I think it really expands your knowledge of, the world is bigger than just, Broomfield, Colorado. You get to learn a lot of independence is also really huge too. And so just that knowledge, the self-confidence that you gain, that can really help you no matter what you choose to do with your future. There's just a lot of very valuable lessons that the kids have learned being independent and calling their own shots, whether they make right decisions or wrong decisions. It's their experience, and that's the best way for them to learn certain life skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that this is like what Kailea was saying, but we're artists. Even if you don't end up making money and going with dance as a profession, it doesn't mean that you have to stop calling yourself a dancer or identifying yourself as being a dancer. You can dance until you're 99. Past that if you want. I don't want to limit anybody. So, you can dance forever if that's what's in your heart and you want to do that. So, you can still make art. You can still be that artist for yourself. And that's one thing that I've even talked to, we have a student who has gone away and is this brilliant scientist. And I've talked to her about like joining a regional non-professional company just so that she can keep performing and teach here and there. And you don't have to ever graduate from high school and then stop. You get to keep it in your life. And so that's what I would say. It's super valuable for everyone. One thing that I should say, because I told Jan I have this like regular spiel that I give, and part of my regular spiel is you want to be, even if whether or not you're going to be a professional dancer, you want to be ready in terms of knowing that, and I think, a lot of you have spoken to this, but knowing that you want to spend 8 hours a day, knowing that you've done pas de deux, maybe in a CCD program, and you can do pas de deux and not fall over and die, that you've had these harder teachers and really had these harder experiences before your parents are spending. It is more expensive to go to a program away because you have to also pay for housing and for airfare and more for food because you're paying for somebody to prepare that food. So, I would say have your hard experiences to make sure that you're physically ready and mentally ready before you go and spend $10 gajillion on. It's not $10 gajillion, but it is more expensive. So, we're getting short on time, so I want to go through these last questions really quick because we also have some questions from parents that have been coming in. What was one of the most difficult aspects of going away to a summer intensive for you guys? Sarah, we haven't heard from you for a second.
Well, I will say my first 4 summer intensives the weekends were actually really, really hard for me. I struggled so much not being at home. But I don't think if hadn't done summer intensives, I wouldn't have gone away for college. Like that was what taught me that I could actually physically manage to be away from family, friends, Colorado for as long as an entire semester. So that was by far the hardest. The social part of it was by far the hardest for me, just because when you're so young, you're already still trying to figure out who you are, whether or not you connect well with other people. But all that to say, I've made so many friends. And those friends now, when I'm out and I'm in New York and stuff, I still can catch up with them. If I visit Chicago, hey, I have these friends in Chicago, San Francisco, all these different places. I think the other hard thing too is that you have to be really cognizant of like fueling your body, because your parents aren't really there to help you in ways that, dinner's ready with already pre-proportioned and it has protein and it has things that you need. They fill your water bottle maybe in the morning. So I think that was the other hard part of it. I was exhausted until I really understood how to fuel myself.
Mm. That's so important. Absolutely. Who else have we not heard from in a while? Jackson.
I think for me, I would agree with Sarah. My most difficult aspect wasn't necessarily the dancing. It was the whole just like living on my own for the first time, because I think I went pretty young, and I didn't know how to do laundry. I didn't really wake myself up in the morning. My parents always did that for me. I had to like kind of learn to time manage for the first time, just because you have to take into account, you have to wake up, you have to get ready, you have to do all that. So that was all really difficult for me at first, but I also would say that it was such a valuable learning experience, because I wouldn't necessarily have learned those skills as early as I did if I hadn't gone to a summer intensive. So even though it was pretty difficult, I look back on it and I guess I'm kind of thankful to have that little struggle when I was 14.
Yeah. Nick.
I would say that my the thing that I struggled with the most was the entire time thinking about the intensive before you go. You get super nervous about it. You don't know what's going to happen there. It's kind of like the moment before you get on stage, where for all you know, the audience might boo you off. For all you know, they might really like you. For all you know, they might be completely indifferent to you. But it's just one of those things that, like, I found it personally better to not overthink it. Once you have it, when you know where you're going, once you have that place set, just know that it's going to be new. You're going to meet a lot of new people. You're going to be taught by an entirely different team of teachers. And just to take it and appreciate it and have fun with it.
Mm. Awesome. Okay. How do you get the most out of a summer intensive, Kaila?
For me, I always found it useful to take a blank notebook to every summer intensive, and I would write down things I really liked about whatever the class was that day, or something valuable I got a correction on, or just thoughts. And it was always helpful for me to just write things down, whether it be good or negative, and just kind of process everything. And then once I would get back to CCD or wherever I was at that point, I would just kind of flip through it again and be like, oh yeah, I really liked the way this teacher explained pirouettes. So I want to remember that for the future, instead of just kind of letting it all go as I got back home.
That's great. Anna?
I agree with what everyone's saying, but I like what Nick said about keeping like an open mindset, remaining positive and grateful for the experience, making sure you're having fun, making sure you're going and doing all the different activities with the groups and meeting as many people as possible, like taking the ballet part very seriously, but also socializing and having a great time experiencing the city you're in. It's so cool to be able to go away and live in a different city for 5, however many weeks you're going to be there. Like you might not ever get that experience ever again. Yeah, so just being positive, grateful. A lot of days are harder than others, so just kind of taking it day by day. And the notebook's a great idea. I wish I'd done that at an earlier age.
Michael.
I would say just staying open. You're gonna definitely be dealing with teachers who are teaching a different technique. They're gonna tell you to do things that Miss Julia has told you to never ever do in your life. And don't get defensive with them. Don't tell them, well, my teacher back at home said that you're supposed to do it this way. You don't do that. You learn from them. You say, okay, this is a different way to do it. You don't say it out loud. You say it in your head. And you say, I'm going to do my best to do it in a healthy way. And you learn from it. And then you come back to CCD and then you tell Julia all the crazy things that they had you do. And Julia will say, well, sometimes they'll have you do that. And I'm glad now you know how to do that. Now let's get you back to doing it the healthy, the correct way, the way that we know to be sort of the CCD way. But every single one of those experiences is going to broaden your horizons as a dancer. And it's going to give you a few more tools to put in your notebook. So if you ever are at an audition or you ever do have to impress someone and they say, we only do frappes with a pointed foot, you already know how to do that.
Yeah, that's a great example. Like, not a big deal. I can do that. I can speak French. I can speak Russian. Right. Looking back, actually, and I'm going to change this question a little bit for our parents. Like, can you sum up, Janine and Rachel, just what you find to be most helpful, maybe a surprising thing that you learned about your children or that your children learned that has helped them flourish today? Janine, go first.
Sure. I think for Caroline, she really learned how to take care of herself, keep herself healthy, appreciate the uniqueness of some of the experiences that were offered. And I think that's really, really important. The friendships are amazing and she still has really close and good friends from that. But, for her, one of the most unique things once she was older and in higher placements was being taught by company members, being taught rep that they had performed there at their dance company. And for her, that was really unique and special and a deep educational experience. And so I saw her really appreciate a lot of things about dance that I didn't know necessarily that she appreciated and understood, the real education aspect of that. And I will say too, and this goes back to Julia, your question, is it good to go away for a summer dance intensive if you don't know that you're going to be a professional dancer or you're not sure? Focusing on the not sure, I think it's good because you don't know until you don't know, right? And you get that self-awareness at a different phase intellectually in your life. And she kind of knew after going to Ailey, and every one of her experiences were nothing but positive. She had 5 great experiences. But when she was finished with Ailey, she had that self-awareness, and with a lot of talks with her best friend Jackson and seeing his passion and his dedication, she was learning about herself and having that self-awareness of, I'm probably not going to apply to a college program for dance. I just don't, and I'm probably not going to go on college auditions. And so I think that those were really important learning things. She'll always have dance in her life, but she knew that she didn't have that same burning desire that Jackson had. And she knew that she didn't look at it the same way, but she was starting to feel in her life that same way about other things. And she wanted to put those forefront. So that's a valuable lesson too, right?
That is such a valuable lesson. I love that. Thank you. Rachel.
You know, I think some of the surprising things from summer intensive is just their growth and maturity, for both of them in different ways. It was really nice to see them building their own characters. You know, like, of course, Kaila being the oldest, she's also pretty darn quiet, you know, and watching her venture out of her little comfort level and, you know, talking to different directors. You know, her first summer she got sick. And so she actually had to go. She had to have one of her chaperones, her RAs, go.
Didn't my uncle drive her to?
No, that was in Houston.
Okay.
So her something, she had to get adjusted or something like that when she was in Houston.
Right.
But, you know, relying on other people to like take her to the doctor, that was something new. We did not plan that. You know, Sara got to witness her having a full migraine and, you know, the whole being sick and all of that kind of stuff in her room. But just, there's so many different things that was surprising as a parent to watch them grow and learn from. You know, I mean, we like them being able to navigate airports, you know, being able to hail taxis in New York City, traveling to London on his own. I didn't go with, you know, and so of course all the time delay, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, there's just so many adventures along the way. And, you know, me in my own little sheltered life, I got to experience, you know, New York City and taking a cab and riding an Amtrak and staying in a hotel by myself. I mean, you know, there's a lot of little things that I got to learn along with them. And, you know, it's been really fun watching them grow and learn, and not just as dancers and getting the experiences that, you know, they've all got to experience, but just watching them grow from the parent perspective. You know, I think it's really wonderful to see.
We have some questions on, we have some questions from parents really quick. I just want to make sure that I'm addressing everything. I know Leslie's answered some of them, but I'm just gonna make sure. And some of them, I think, once we release our panelists, sounds like I'm holding you hostage. Once we unduct tape the panelists, then I can answer them, take them into the next section. But what about somebody who is an 11-year-old? Talk about somebody at that age and their readiness for summer programs, and any programs that you guys are aware of that might be healthy and a good experience for an 11-year-old. I love everybody went, the answer might be up in the ceiling. Who has an answer?
I would mention Colorado Ballet. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you, Jan. Yay!
I would mention Colorado Ballet. Lauren did a program around that age there, and it was a shorter program, I think 1 or 2 weeks. And I think for her, that was a great experience because she got the experience of, you know, working with other instructors, being with other dancers that weren't her friends from CCD, but still coming home at night and, you know, being comfortable at home. So it was, you know, a very full day and going and having that experience. But I think that was a great way for her to, you know, test it out.
That's a great point. Anybody else have thoughts on that? I agree that like leaving the state feels a little young. That feels young for me. We of course have a program that I would recommend, but I think that's probably well answered, and I can talk to this parent offline if we need to. Top 10 summer programs. I think you've heard a lot of them, but I also want to say that you don't have to go to a big name school to have a really great experience. So don't get I don't know, don't get so focused on those names that you know, because the thing about that is that they have so many students. I mean, when I went, because I went to Boston for four summers, and I'd have 40 kids in my class, which is great and super fun. And that small, as Janine was saying, like that small experience is so valuable. Going to a smaller program and having somebody really see you, I think, is really valuable. And there are a lot of really great smaller programs. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to answer these questions quickly because I promised our panelists that I'd let them leave, but it's 9:07. There's a question. How did you let your children go to another state? It gives me anxiety. I mean, that is like, how do you let your children go? Looks like, actually, Leslie, why don't you talk about that?
Hi, everyone.
We want to see your face.
Okay, I'm managing behind the scenes and trying to answer some of your questions as well. Anna's my daughter. It's difficult. So what we as parents have to do, and I've answered it in the question as well, is we have to prepare our kids, because it's not just letting your kids go, it's having trust that your child is going to go away and learn and separate from you. So there's that bond that you have with your child, the trust that you have with each other. And when you are letting them go into the world, it's hard. It is hard, but if you do your homework, you connect with the docent, find your Marnie out there, because every intensive program has that resource to make sure that you're connected. You know what the schedule is, you know everything, read all of your documentation. If you have the ability, travel with, set them up, and then leave, because they don't want you hanging around. They really want you to set up their bed and go. It's not easy, but it's very gratifying to see your child come back as a beautiful new person, because they've learned so much. They've made their friends, everything that we're talking about. So yes, as a parent, difficult, lots of anxiety inducing, but trust your child, understand that the steps that you've provided for them by prepping them well in advance, making sure that they understand they need to set their own alarm. They need to get themselves up. They need to go to bed. Practice with their food preparation well in advance so that you don't worry about them starving, because I actually did worry about that for Anna. Because that was my worry. So just whatever you're worried about as a parent, make sure that you let them go into the world, spread their wings with the skill set before, like some baseline level of skill set before you put them out there. So that's all. I'm gonna be quiet now. Go back to my
Janine.
monitoring.
Yeah, I was going to say too, is making baby steps as helpful as Jan suggested. Have them, do an in-state program first, and then, that's different than their home studio. And then for baby Boston, which I already said she was completely supervised. Full disclosure, her grandparents were 30 minutes away. So that made 13 feel okay. And then, her grandparents were 30 minutes away when she was completely on her own for the first time in Boston when she was 17. And then we had good family friends in Chicago. So both times that she was at Joffrey, we knew that those people could be our backup till we got there. It wasn't until she was 18 and she went to New York City and it was Ailey that we didn't have any backup plan, but she was 18 and it was just like sending her away to college. The other really important thing for parents to look into these programs is, what do these programs have set up if your child gets hurt, if they are injured? What is the PT situation? Do they provide PT, either free or small fee? What's the next step after PT? At Boston, Caroline needed PT. She needed an X-ray. They escorted her to the hospital. They gave her the company doctor. She was great. They fixed her up. She was back on the floor in 3 days. So it's important to know all those things, and you need to send them with their insurance card. You need to send them with the proper paperwork. All of those things are another important aspect when you're evaluating programs for your child, and it'll help you get some peace of mind.
Yeah, and I'll tag along what Janine had to say too. Kaila's first intensive was in Chicago, and we have a whole assortment of relatives, and they did come. Actually, I think they took Sara out one night too, but they came and visited a couple times, and that was just kind of her safety net, and that was her number one choice to go. And that made her feel safe. And then for Parker, he's just kind of like, yeah, see ya. You know, he went to Orlando for his first one, and we didn't have any relatives or anybody down there, but he's, you know, so independent that I didn't worry about it so much. But then also something that you're going to find too is that the ballet world is really, really, really small. So even though we didn't have the backup family for Parker, Kaila actually had a really good friend that she knew from summer intensives that was also down there at the same exact time. And so she's like, okay, Matthew, I want you to check in on Parker, see how he's doing. And so they would text a couple times over the course of the intensive. So I knew at least that he was, you know, waking up and doing what he needed to do. And, you know, by his text, I knew he was at least doing his laundry. But, you know, those were our safety nets, and that's where we felt comfortable with. So.
That's great. Such great advice. Any parting thoughts, you guys, really fast, 1-sentence thoughts, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, I guess kind of following along this same question it is going to be anxiety inducing. I am already a very anxious person, and I remember very vividly standing on the front steps of my dormitory at my first summer intensive with my mom, and I hugged her goodbye, and we both looked at each other with tears in our eyes like, oh my God, what the hell did we do? And then she left, and everything was fine. And you know what? I got in trouble. I got hurt. I made mistakes. I didn't fuel myself properly. I didn't do my laundry correctly. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to screw things up. You're going to get in trouble, but you're going to continue doing that your entire life. So although it's nice to have your parents there to help you when you do get in trouble and to kind of help you get through it, it's very, very important to be able to figure out how to do this on your own. And every single time you make a mistake and every single time you get in trouble is always a learning experience.
Yep. Jackson. Parting thought.
Oh, parting thought. I think it's just important when you go to a summer intensive, obviously work hard, get the most out of it, kind of embrace every day, embrace every class, embrace every teacher. But I also think it is important to like kind of network and to enjoy yourself, because when I was like reflecting on what I might tell you guys in this, I realized that like many of the people that I met at my first summer intensive, I ended up like growing up with low key, and then I like go to work with them every day now. So, and then even beyond then, there's people that I just know like all around the world just because we all went to the same summer intensive. So I think it's important to like dance your best and do all that you can to really make the most of it. But it's also important to have fun. It really is.
Awesome. Nick.
I feel like this advice would go for when you live on your own, but a protein bar for breakfast is better than nothing.
It's true, but let's do better, Nick. Let's do better than that. Okay, we can do better.
Right. I mean, I tried to do my best, but if sometimes you sleep through that first set of alarm clocks you have for yourself, a protein
Put
bar is
several
better than nothing.
protein bars in your bag so that when you mess up, you have a backup plan. Don't do what I did when I went away from my first program, which a lot of people on this panel remember me telling this story. Don't leave a banana in your ballet bag because bananas get smushed, and then when they smear all over your pointe shoes, they turn black. And then your mom gets really mad at you because you messed up. Yep. Anna.
Be nice, be kind, treat people how you want to be treated. You know, when you're going to these intensives, there's hormones and testosterone and bullying and this and that. Just stay in your own lane, find people that you like, work on yourself, make friends, be kind, be positive, be open. That's it.
Awesome. Great advice. Sara.
I think I saw there was a question, just something about scholarships. And intensives are very expensive, but there are 100% scholarships out there available. And even if you don't think you would qualify for a scholarship, still apply. You'd be surprised at how much is available. I guess particularly like once I was in college, I learned really good cost saving ways to go to intensives. So if anyone's on the older side looking for suggestions, feel free to reach out to me and I can offer you things, but don't let cost be a deterrent. Look at programs that have scholarship options, do the research in advance so that you know you're auditioning places that you can physically get yourself to.
Mm-hmm. Great. Kaila.
I'd say don't be afraid to ask for help, whether it be asking Julia beforehand, like, I don't know, is this a good program? What do you think? Or if you're at the intensive and you have a question and you go to your teacher or you go to your chaperone, or if it's you've done 2 other intensives and you're looking at a new program and you can think, hey, I actually know somebody from my first summer that has been here. What do you think about this? So I'd just say, don't be afraid to ask for help. You can always reach out to me if you want to know specifics about anything, or you can always ask Miss Julia. Just try to network and use your resources.
Great advice, you guys. And I want to let people go. I'm going to stop saying that because it's 9:18. But Rachel, super fast, last thought.
The ballet world is a very small world. So kind of like what I've said before, what Annie was saying to behave, be nice, because you know you're going to get a reputation if you treat people unkind, and just enjoy your experience, focus on you, stay in your lane, just like she said too. But just know why you're there and work on those reasons. If it's working on partnering, if it's whatever, just know your reason why and focus on that.
Yeah, you have my name on your resume. Remember that. Janine.
Yeah, I would say just, stuff a little of those anxieties down from a parent perspective and be your child's biggest cheerleader. And that is true for when you send them off and throughout the program. They may call you and panic and say, I'm in a class with all SAB girls. Why did they place me here? We're on point 8 hours a day. What am I doing? Because you were prepared. Trust that you are prepared. You were prepared by CCD, and you were prepared at that audition, and you were prepared in the class placement. You are where you're supposed to be. And these young adults are all artists, and they know they have those self-doubts sometimes. So when these kids are in summer intensives, they go through phases throughout the summer intensive, throughout the 6 weeks where they're way up here and they're super happy. And then they come back down because they're starting to have doubts. So as their parent, just remind them that they have had the best training and they are there because they're supposed to be there and they're going to do great. And they do great.
That's great. That's one thing that I've learned from parents is that just remember, parents, that you're going to hear all of the negative things. And they're also really positive things happening. So try to like pull that out. Don't assume that they are actually having a totally bad experience. Because you might just be getting all of the frustrations. So you guys, thank you all so much, panelists. I'm so grateful for your time, and thank you for letting us run over with what I promised tonight would be like. But you are all such amazing humans, and I'm so grateful to have had this conversation with you. So thank you so much. You are unduct taped.
Thank
All right,
you.
love you guys. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Mwah,
you.
mwah, mwah.
Bye.
Awesome dancers.
Audience, stay
Oh,
with
so
us because
proud
we're
of
going to
you.
answer more questions.
Bye, Banana.
Love you, love you, love you, love you, love you. Awesome.
Am I released as well, or do you want me to hang? I'm gonna hang. And
Hang.
I'm going back
We only
to.
have 10 minutes left.
Okay, cool.
8 minutes.
All right,
But,
I'm gonna go back with and hang with Buster on the mountain. Okay.
Okay, great.
There we go.
That's Buster on the mountain. That's cute. Jan, we have this list of, and some of these questions we've already answered, but I know that I want to make sure that we're answering all the questions for our families tonight. First question that we had come up with was, what age is best to go to your first intensive? I think we talked a lot about that. But I think it's more about just making sure that they're emotionally ready, technically ready, ready for the rigor, ready to do laundry, all of those things. Is there anything else with that question that you think parents might be wondering?
No, I don't think so. Other than, what things other than, we've talked about laundry, we've talked about preparing meals, we've talked about, being able to wake yourself up. Are there other things that you can think of that would be good to, think about with your dancer to make sure that they're prepared for that experience?
Yeah, I guess to add to that, it's just, I would say talk to your dancers about focus level and that why, like Rachel was saying, the why you're there. You are there to make friends, but if you're going through this experience, you want to make sure that like they're really invested in that learning inside the studio. So I guess that's my only.
I will add one thing.
Oh yeah, sorry, Leslie.
No,
I need
that's
to pay
okay.
attention to the
Really,
raised hand.
this is really important. If your student is not accustomed to, if you're, depending on what level, but if you're in point shoes and your student isn't accustomed to sewing their own ribbons, for example, that is key, because there were a lot of students in Anna's class that she discovered didn't know how to do that because they were relying on their parents, their mom or the dance shoe store to pre-do that. And so Anna was like a seamstress for one summer. It's like, Anna, teach everyone else. You don't have time to sew everyone else's ribbons. So that was something that we learned along the way.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, and hopefully all of the rule at CCD is that parents get to help once and then you're on your own.
Yeah.
But
don't be other seamstress for others is I
Yeah.
guess the lesson, if your students are well prepared in that respect.
Yeah, I think that that's great advice. And don't let people over rely on you because you happen to be prepared in some way. Don't let them, because like in that instance, what that makes me think of is like Anna was there to have her experience, not there to provide an experience for everyone else. So like teach them that like you don't need these people to rely on you that much, be a good role model, but
Don't be the caretaker for others.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
When are auditions? Auditions start in January generally, and they usually go January through March. There are auditions in April. The auditions, so Dance Magazine and Point Magazine, print, an audition, they'll have like ads in the magazines, And those ads will say when their auditions are and where they are. So you want to get magazines for, or, you know, of course, those magazines are online now too, but it's really kind of fun to have the actual physical magazine and circle. And I don't know, that maybe I'm being too old school, but I think that that's cool. And then you can like take them out and put them on your bedroom wall too, and have that as organizing or as inspiration. Does Miss Julia need to approve a program? So I don't need to approve a program for you. What I want you to understand is that I am invested in each of our students, and I want to be a part of your journey because I care about our students. And so I love it when we have conversations and we're planning together about, because it also helps me understand how to invest my energy into a student. So having those conversations are really special and really important. And I also, there are schools that I think are more suited to our students than other schools. And another thing that's really important to me is that the school has integrity and that the school has a good reputation, that they take care of students, and that the mental health aspect of these institutions is thought of and is taken seriously. And there are some schools that have reputations that I would prefer our dancers avoid, because nobody needs to experience an environment that isn't a mentally safe environment. So it's more that I care about you and I just want to be a part of that experience. There's no mandate. Jan, is that clear, or anything else I should address with that?
I think that's good. I think that it is important to, have those conversations, not from the perspective of necessarily having a stamp of approval, but the programs that are out there, the reputations, and those are things that parents likely aren't aware of and don't have that insight. And so those are good conversations to have to make sure you're not getting into something that you're not aware of, even though they may have a great ballet program, but you don't know the culture there, and you don't necessarily know if that culture is right for your child. And that would be something that would be good to at least get your input on, I think, to make sure that you're making the right choice for your child. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think too, it helps me know what your child's interests are. Like I want to try Ailey. Like that is a really important thing for me to know about one of our dancers, because it will help me help them drive in that pathway,
Yeah.
In general. What about photos? So photos, Amanda Tipton is coming this Monday to do audition, but excuse me, Julia, it's been a long day, is coming the Monday of Thanksgiving break to do audition photos. And so you can sign up for that, but she wants us to sign up before, no, I'm messing everything up. That's Nutcracker Photos. Sign up, Amanda Tipton, look in your newsletter. There's a link. You can sign up and do audition photos. I will be there helping to pose and make sure that dancers are looking their best. And we will do photos. So dancers, as they come in for the photos, we'll do a rapid test, and then we'll let them be without their masks when after they've been negative, so that they can have their audition photos without masks. Okay. But so that's coming up. And here's what you need to know is that every summer intensive requires different photos. There's a standard set of audition photos that I do: croisé, tendu croisé devant, first arabesque. I usually will do like a susu or a tendu in second, and then a headshot, just to make sure that we catch everything. But organizations like San Francisco Ballet require something like 10 different photos. So you want to have an idea of what the institution requires, and have that list and bring it with you so that we don't miss things, because then you have to go back and get another photo. And one of the questions about photos was, can we take them by yourself? Yes, you can, but make sure that you're getting a really great product, because like we said, that picture is going to be stapled. They're going to print it out and they're going to staple it to their application, so that as they're going through and looking at who was, they don't remember who was in the room. They have a flash memory of the kid that pulled off 3 pirouettes, but that's it. And so you want to have a really solid representation of your student on that audition form. And I would say, if you are going to do it by yourself, then have somebody there who can help coach them in terms of like what a good pose is, because just because your child is well trained, it doesn't mean that whoever is in front of the camera knows what a good angle is. And the angles in what we do is what's really important. Or if they're in first arabesque and they're falling back in the picture, their leg may be really high, but their supporting foot may not look splendid. You want all of those pieces to be really put together well. And so it is important to invest in that to make sure that you get a high quality product. There are workarounds, of course, and that is important. But if you can do a photo shoot, do the photo shoot.
I second that. Very important.
Yep.
So amateur photography is as good as the person taking the picture, knowing what a good pose is supposed to be.
And sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. And
Yep.
that's totally cool. But
Yep.
I'm always here to help. And because the thing that I want you guys to understand is that I want my students to be successful. All of my students, every single one of my students. So I will do whatever it takes to help my students be successful. And that will mean I will help with photos. I will give you advice. I just want you to be happy. I want you to be healthy. And I want the world to be your oyster, if that's the right saying, right? So, so come and talk to me if that's a problem, and we will work on it together because we're a team.
Along the same lines, what about
Yes.
videos? Because there are many
Yes.
places where you can audition by video.
Right.
So if that's something where you would suggest that the students work with you on taking those videos that they submit.
Yes. Yeah, you can't. Okay. So, yes, video auditions are so difficult and they can be very stressful to do. You always want to have somebody, a pedagogue in the room who is watching and helping in that as best you can, because it's so revealing. And if somebody is taking the time to watch one person in a video, it can be really it just has to be really well done. And well done does not need to be super expensive. We need to come up with a strategy. So I would recommend having me or your favorite teacher in the room, somebody who really knows you as a dancer. And the thing that I always tell our dancers is that, like, you have to go into that remembering that sometimes when you're learning combinations, you use other people in the room to help you remember things, and you do that subconsciously. When you are the only person in front of a camera, sometimes you don't remember, sometimes you fall over, sometimes your angle is off, sometimes all of these things happen because you don't have all of your normal resources in the room. And so I tell this story all the time, that I was filming one of this is long ago, one of our dancers who was such a turner. She could do so many turns. It was ridiculous. And she was so strong on point. It took us 5 times to get plies was fine, tendus was fine, and then it took us like 3 times to do the dégagés to get it right, and then it took us 4 times to get the fondus right, and then it took us, it kept just kind of, she was getting tired, but she had this deadline, and so we had to keep going, and then we hit this combination in the center where, so 2 things happened to her in this audition process that were really frustrating for her. So there's this one combination that she normally would completely nail. It took her 10 times through to get the combination, and it was exhausting, and like she just felt so negative about herself, even though she shouldn't have, because she was a gorgeous dancer. But it just was the process, right? It just took her those 10 times. And then her mom was filming that day, and it was like old school because it was years ago, so it was like a video camera rather than just a phone, and she nailed this other combination, and her mom had not pressed record, and so it was just like, it took us 5 hours to get her film done, but we got a really great product. She got into the schools that she wanted to do, but you just have to understand that sometimes those are just really difficult processes. So if you can, sorry, the vacuum cleaner is going outside my office, I apologize. But so if you can get a cheap flight to go to an audition, sometimes it's going to be cheaper, and it's going to be better. And then sometimes you're auditioning for a school that it's impossible to get to, and you want them to really see you, and so it's worth the investment in doing a video. And so it's a case by case basis, and I'll help you with that process.
Yeah, and I would definitely check with Colorado Academy, the Colorado Ballet Academy, to see who's coming in for auditions there and get that schedule. Take advantage of the closest places that you can go for those auditions. And it's likely that many of the places that your student is interested will be coming into the academy. Register that way.
Yeah, they usually publish a list of places that are coming to them, but which is helpful, because I think that they get a lot of calls for that. So I think they're really helpful with that. And then I know we're late, but some of my favorite programs, I mean, what I hope has been underscored is that I want to listen to your student and what their interests are and what their talents are, and try to match them with a program that would be right for them. And that's really important to me. And I have programs. Houston Ballet is one of my favorite programs. Boston Ballet is one of my favorite programs. But then I have smaller programs that I love. I love Atlanta Ballet, although their direction is shifting a little bit. But I have lots of other programs, but it's probably better suited to a one-on-one conversation, so that I can ask your child what their goals are and try to match them best. Great starter programs. Ballet West has a really great starter program, in addition to the, I won't call it Baby Boston, in addition to the Boston Ballet program for younger dancers. What other questions, Jan, do we need to address before?
What advice do you have for someone that didn't start at 3 or 4 and they're in their 4th year and they're feeling like they need to learn quickly and improve because they only have a couple of years left before graduation?
I think, so in general, one thing that I like to recommend is assisting in younger classes, because you can get a lot of, when you're a late beginner, you have often some gaps because your education has been accelerated. So if you can go back and assist in younger classes, it can help to fill in those gaps and make it more naturalistic, and also gives you a sense of pride and and a sense of ownership over your own work. So in general, that's what I recommend, but take as many classes as you can. Well, you know, I mean, I think that that's really important for all dancers. And then I still think it's important to go to a summer intensive. I would say make sure that your point work is ready before, so you, and by ready I mean like you want to be prepared to be able to spend several hours on point. So you want to have that level of strength before you go to a summer program. And so work towards that and then go and do the things and have the fun.
Well, it looks like we've addressed all of the questions that have come in, and we
Great.
went over by about 11 minutes, but I think this has been really great and it's been very informative. And
Yeah.
I appreciate everyone staying on and listening. I know it's late on a Saturday. I think this
Yeah.
is an important topic that a lot of parents have had questions about, so it's good to be able to address them in a group.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for joining us, and let us know what other questions you'd like us to address in such a format. This was really fun. And I loved having all of our alumni and Leslie's daughter, Anna. That was really fun.
And I also want to do a shout out to Bar Association. Jan, thank you very much for coordinating us to help out our parent and student population. Lots of these kinds of activities are forthcoming. So Jan and Shannon, they are our fearless leaders, and we're so grateful for your time, your energy, and your leadership. Thank you.
You bet. All right.
Yay.
Have a good night, everyone.